Hey guys, what is going on? Inception here, and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be doing an in-game stats review for the Player of the Month, Reus. Now, I've heard a lot of discussions about this card on Twitter. People don't necessarily want to get this card, or they're upset that this card exists because of a previous Player of the Month, and then this card costing more money and screwing over people for the previous Player of the Month. I'm not really sure how that works. That's not really what I do when I review these cards. I just kind of review the player stats. Again, whether the card is worth getting or not is entirely up to the person doing the SBC. It's obviously going to be very expensive, so I'm not really sure how expensive, but we are going to go ahead and review this card. So right off the bat, Reus is 5'11", so 5'11" is obviously a very nice height to have. 5'11" allows you a physical presence, even if you don't necessarily have crazy physical stats. So it's nice that he is 5'11". Right-footed player with a 4-star weak foot, also awesome to have as well with a 4-star skill move. So base card stats look very good, but sometimes when you look at the specific stats of players for shooting and pace, it could be very different. Like you can have more acceleration than sprint speed, or you can have more finishing than composure, blah, 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 right? So medium work rates is an odd work rate to have. He's not necessarily going to be the type of player that's going to make runs for you. He's going to be very balanced, I would say. Balanced in the sense of he won't make runs, but he'll be looking for the ball, right? So players with medium are usually like players like Mahrez, Messi, right? They look for the ball to kind of approach them rather than like them running and then getting the ball from a run, right? So if you do end up using Reus in your team to counter his work rate a little bit, you would have to set whatever position you play him in, because he can play striker, cam, even center mid, right? Because he has the pace and 5'11" height, but he doesn't have the defensive stats. But you know, he still can play the center mid role. It looks like a fun card. I can't go wrong with it. I think the stamina will be low in general. 77. I'm not sure if they increased it by a lot. I'm actually going to check right now. So Reus, because Reus' stamina is usually very low, and it makes his card very unusable when they make him that low. 77 is pretty decent in comparison to 68. So it is a pretty significant upgrade. I think an 82 again would be pretty nice at the very least for someone like Marco Reus. But yeah, the card looks fantastic. I think it's obviously going to be very expensive, but let's look at the specific stats. So his pace is really well balanced with acceleration at 91 and sprint speed at 90. His shooting in general is fantastic. He's 90s or a minimum of 90 in everything. So you know, you can choose to upgrade that with the chemistry style if you really want to. Completely up to you. And he also already has pretty decent composure, agility, balance, so on and so forth, right? So the card in general is fantastic. I think he'll move around the pitch really nicely because the comparison between his 91 agility and his 81 balance, that in comparison, or his 85 balance, that in comparison to his rare gold card, which is this one, he has 86 agility, 81 balance. So he still moves nicely on the ball with his rare gold card, but just not as well. And you do notice it because it's not enough for it to be like really nice, right? I think if he's at 92, 91 agility, I think you'll significantly feel the difference in terms of his dribbling being a lot better, right? With his ball control, dribbling, composure, also very good. I would probably slap a sniper card on him, personally, because I want to increase his finishing as much as possible, but also increasing that composure as much as possible would be very, very helpful. You can take long shots with his weak foot and his strong foot. Very stagnant player again. So if you have your custom tactics set to kind of like narrow and you want to aim for those finesse shots consistently, Reus is going to do a very good job at hitting them with his right or his left side. So you can play him as a left cam or a right cam. I would probably suggest playing him as a left cam so that he can cut inside and shoot with his strong foot, which is 4-star, or it is a right foot. So very, very nice in that regard too. Skill moves is pretty good for the scoop turn. Burba spin. Burba spin's really good too. Or not the Burba spin, but I think it's the McGeady spin, but it's not the 5-star version of the skill. It's the 4-star one that they added last year, right? That skill move's really good. It's the one where you flick like this, right? Flick, 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 right? Backwards, forward, or backwards, upwards, or downwards, right? Instead of going forwards, upwards, or downwards, right? So yeah, the card looks fantastic. Some things that you will notice with the card is honestly not that much. You'll notice the stamina going down, right? Because if you are going to be using probably like press on possession loss or constant pressure, he will lose stamina pretty quickly. If you have him as a chem on stay forward, he won't really lose he won't lose the stamina that much. But if he's on balanced, he will move up and down the pitch, so he'll lose stamina in that regard. If you use him as a center mid, obviously he'll lose a lot of stamina if he's on balance instead of stay back while attacking and stay on the edge of the box. Those types of instructions that you set to your players influence how their stamina depletes, right? So just take that into account when looking at these players. But in general, the card should be really fun to use. I think it'll be fantastic to use, actually. 76 strength is pretty decent considering that he is already 5'11". Since 79 jumping is also decent considering that he's 5'11 as well. So it looks like a fantastic card to use in general. What types of teams would you use Reus in? So he is German from Borussia Dortmund. So if you do want to use some teams with him, it's going to be... I think it's going to be very linear to Bundesliga and German teams. So with German players from different leagues, I don't think there's that many to go with in terms of meta that you can use in the team. So we're going to go ahead and search up the German cards. Toni Kroos. A lot of people actually like Toni Kroos in this game. I'm not a huge fan of him because I think his pace is far too low. But his shooting and his passing in general is fantastic because he does have a 5-star weak foot as well. So that's definitely something to look into. Except for the expensive players. Sané is okay. Sané is not too bad. But if you play him as a left winger, I'd highly suggest switching him from the right side. Or from the left side to the right side. So he can cut in and shoot with his left. Got Götze. That's his flashback SBC. Not really sure how people like his card. Timo Werner, obviously. Very nice to get chemistry links with him as well. Ozil's not very meta. Gundogan's not really meta. And trying to see if I can find anybody else that would be somewhat meta. I don't think they have too many. Oh, Goretzka's a big one. Yeah, Goretzka is a huge one, actually. Because Goretzka's fantastic in this game. He was fantastic last year as well. So if we get Goretzka's card in this team right now, right? Kind of works out really nicely. If you want to start with a 4-1-2-2 with a Bundesliga team, you can totally do that. But I think personally, Werner is the only good striker in the Bundesliga. There is players like Lewandowski and so on and so forth, but I'm personally not a fan of them. I'm not a fan of like the heavy strikers. I would use them for the fun concept like Lewandowski, Belotti and stuff, but I wouldn't necessarily use them for an actual team, if that makes any sense, right? So with strikers from the Bundesliga, I feel like the only real option you have might be Timo Werner, unless there's other players that I don't know about. Paulo Alcacer, these ones. Philip got an inform. 4-star, 4-star, striker. Acceleration more than sprint speed. Composure is very low, though. Composure being low is it's such a downfall for sure of cards, because when you lose that composure, the thing about losing composure is that defensive AI really sticks to you this FIFA. So if your player doesn't have good composure, he's going to fail a lot of shots. By himself, he might finish really nicely, but very rarely do you actually find yourself by yourself to finish certain opportunities 1v1. So not really worth doing in that regard. But I think Timo Werner, honestly, is probably one of the best strikers to use. Werner is, for me personally, the most meta striker in terms of characteristics that's not up to Ronaldo, right? Last year, I think you used to have like Martial and Gabriel Jesus, and they used to be pretty meta because they were lacking in certain things, but they still had the 4-star weak foot and they still had decent work rates to what they were. But I feel like this year, most strikers aren't great. So Timo Werner is definitely one of the cards that would be one of the more ideal cards to use, I think. If you give him a finisher, I feel like that's the most ideal thing to do, giving him that shot power and long shots. 76 composure really sucks, so maybe giving him a sniper to increase the composure as well as his balance would also be very good. But with Goretzka in the team, right, you get that one German and club link, or not German and club link, but German and league link, and then the other player here, you can put Marco Reus, and if you want to start with a 4-1-2-2, you can actually use this, right, and those players alone, right, have pretty good chemistry amongst each other, right? Reus would require one more chemistry. So in terms of a striker, I wouldn't necessarily recommend using a striker. If you can look for other German players that are good to use in this team, then that would be very ideal as well. CDM, I don't think the Bundesliga has too many good CDMs, to be honest. It's more like if you use Goretzka and his high work rates is what affects your defensive performance. Because I think the only person you can truly use as a CDM in the Bundesliga is probably Gilavogi. Ronaldo Sanchez looks like he has a cool card. Tolisso would be awesome, but his work rates really sucks. Gilavogi is a card that I unlocked, so he could be a player that you can use. So if you're using a 4-1-2-2, this would be an ideal setup for sure. Again, you don't need to necessarily link up with Reus anymore if you don't want to. So yeah, but you know, Bundesliga is probably like the easiest, right? Ronaldo Sanchez, Champions League version of his card would also be another good card to use. High work rates on both sides for the left center mid and right center mid would be really nice. And then the CDM in the CDM area with medium high work rates, good height. The transition left and right with him isn't that great, but defensively and physically he's really good with 6'2" height and 79 jumping, good strength. So it'll be pretty awesome to have this as a card, right? Striker. In terms of players you can put in the team, I think Lewandowski would probably be your last option, I would say, in terms of strikers. And then, you know, center backs, fullbacks, you can use like Jonathan Tah. Left back, you can use like Wendell or something. Right back, you can use Piszczek. People really like Piszczek. I've heard a lot of people say that they like him a lot. I think it's because his work rates is medium, so it causes a very good balance in terms of going up and pushing back. So let me go check his card here real quick. So yeah, his card is medium work rates with a 4-star. Weak foot, good defensive stats, good physical stats, good pace. 77 jumping while being 6 foot is very nice as well. So that's a big thing too. People really like Thomas Meunier nowadays because Thomas Meunier is a tall player with, I think, high work rates. So he progressively pushes forward and comes back really nicely, and so on and so forth. We'll just go ahead and finish the rest of this team in terms of what you can use around the Reus. I know it's a very typical Bundesliga team, so nothing too special here. But Jonathan Tah would be one of the center backs. You could put like Farman as a goalkeeper too, because Farman would be pretty decent. We'll search for Bundesliga here again, and we'll see what's going on here. Obviously, there's like players like Boateng. Boateng would be pretty cool. And then you can use like David Alaba, right? Apparently, people really like Neuer this year. This is one of the first years I've ever heard Neuer actually be a good goalkeeper, because almost every single year he's pretty awful. Like, if you ever got to his team of the year versions of his cards, those cards were so bad in comparison to a regular David De Gea. But people really like Neuer this year, so definitely worth trying him out. But this can be a 4-1-2-2 that you can work with in the beginning. The problem with this is that switching to a wide formation isn't necessarily ideal, but a fun team regardless to use, right? Good work rates everywhere. A fun team that you can use, you know, just to mess about and stuff and just have fun with FIFA. So that is going to conclude the video for today, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy it. I think Reus is a really cool card. I don't know the situation with the past player of the month and this player of the month. I understand that it's a little bit too expensive considering people did the last player of the month, and I completely get that, but I'm not going to get into that because I don't really know too much about it, right? But in terms of general stats, the card is awesome. You will notice the depletion of stamina. Sometimes he'll get outbodied because it's not like crazy, but in general the card's going to feel really nice and really fun to use in game. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video today. This will be the video for either the beginning of the day or later on in the day. The next video for today will be for the MLS Martinez, if that's still out. I'm not sure if these players are only out for 1 day, because if they are out for 1 day, then I'm obviously not going to do the Martinez card. Which I'm going to go find out later where he is, because people were looking into him. But if he's not here, then I'll just stick with the Marco Reus. So hope you guys enjoyed the video today. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Love you guys.